Let's go. You're good. You're good. You're great. You're great. You're good. Let's go. Stay focused. Set up your head. Stand up. Good, buddy. Good. Good. Out of there.
Let's go. Push it.
Good. Good. Move it.
Hey, come on.
Way to go, Sweet.
On the bar. Yeah.
Come on. Set. If you can see it.
Up high.
Let's take one move.
Come on. Here we go.
Good.
Get there. Come on, Jamie. Out. Go.
Now let's move.
Finish strong, Jamie.
The wall. Keep the feet moving. Keep them moving. Move the feet.
Go, Jamie. Get there. Good word.
See that? Let's go, Eli. Go. Off of it. Let's go. You're good. You're great. You're great. You're good. Let's go. Stay focused. Set up your head. Stand up. Good, buddy. Good. Out of there.
Let's go. Push it.
Good. Move it.
Hey, come on.
Way to go, Sweet.
On the bar. Yeah.
Come on. Set. If you can see it.
Up high.
Let's take one move.
Come on. Here we go.
Good.
Get there. Come on, Jamie. Out. Go.
Now let's move.
Finish strong, Jamie.
The wall. Keep the feet moving. Keep them moving. Move the feet.
Go, Jamie. Get there. Good word.
Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahushai Ba'Hashem, Rachak Badash. Double honor to our apostles, elders, and bishops here at Great Millstone for teaching this truth that's gone all around the earth. And shalom to the hopeful elect out there. It's your brother Atazawan. We're going to jump into a real quick lesson. And one of the other brothers from Kansas City I had found that clip that we see of that young Jake going through that obstacle course or ninja course. All right, I found that to be very interesting. Now, we couldn't see the young man that was on the other side. I couldn't tell, whether it was an Edomite or whatever, but really doesn't matter. But it just goes to show you how Jake, the young kid, Salaki. Now, that's Satan, because I was sitting here and wasn't a sound being made until I hit this button. Some idiot out there on his motorcycle. But anyway, Salakia for that. So we see this young Jake just whiz through that confidence course or ninja course or whatever they're calling it. It looks to be a competition for young kids. And you see how Jake just blasted through that thing with no hesitation, no problem. Extremely agile, strong, stamina, gifted, right? And just to say that we're the people of the Lord, and it reminded me of what we were preaching about yesterday at camp about superpowers, right? About being mighty men, when Yahushua returns and all the great things that are going to happen to our bodies. We're going to get new bodies, okay? We're not going to do these types of feats in these frail bodies, but it does go to show you the special, that special thing, if you will, right? That spirit that is in us as Jakes, to be able to play ball at a high level, whatever it is, we can dominate it and we can triumph in it, even in this weak estate of the physical body that we have now, you see? And we're stronger than these people. We're stronger than everybody on the planet, okay? And I just got a great deal of joy watching that young kid, go through that obstacle course, all right? And many of us, and I have to draw back on my own remembrance of being in so-called gym class, right, going through school. And, if you served in the military, you had, through your basic training, you had obstacle courses and so on that you went through. And you always beat the Edomites in that, because we're that gifted, we're that strong. And we went into yesterday while we were at camp, talking about the spiritual power that we're going to receive. And so when you see these different type of movies and uh, comic books, of these mighty men. This is what they're talking about. They're talking about Jake, okay, being on that level because, as you see, like I said, we dominate every sport that Esau has ever come up with, okay, all right, and for a long time, for many years, they kept us out of those competitions because if you put us in it, you'll never win one, Esau. See, but anyway, it just brought to mind some of the scriptures that we read yesterday, in which I'll get one or two of those, okay, and some other scriptures that give you an indication and a clue as to the type of people that the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushua has made us, even in these, like I said, these weak bodies of flesh, of dust, you see, and made us the best people. And he picked the best, and that stands to reason. Yahweh Shem Yahushua would only want the best, you see. So let's go into it real quick. Let's go over here to Genesis 25 and 21. And I'll try to get through this as quick as I can. Genesis 25:21. And Isaac entreated the Lord Yahweh for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived, right? So this is going into Isaac and Rebekah, and she's getting ready to, she was, became pregnant with the twins, all right? Verse 22, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord Yahweh, and the Lord Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So 2 different people, just like we say, you got Esau who's born first, and then Jacob, right? And when we look at today's world, and which, Lord will, I'll get the scripture in 2nd Ezra 6, all right, that Yahweh Shai is going to come and pull these people out of power, right? That's Jacob pulling at the heel of his wicked brother, okay, as it were. Verse 23 again, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger, right? That one that's going to be stronger is Jacob. Jacob is stronger than Esau, so we're the best of everything, okay? Because when you read the scriptures are laden with the prophets and so on, and all the mighty men that the Lord used, right? They were all Jakes, okay? Verse 24, and when her days were delivered, Salakia, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, right? In which it doesn't give you a description of color in terms of color, because that means that he was brown just like everybody else, okay? So when Esau is coming out red like a hairy garment, right, that's an indicator that something was wrong, okay, because he wasn't normal like the rest of them, you see? Anyway, verse 26, it says, and after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old, which means he was 60 when she bare them, you see? But the whole point being is that one people would be stronger than the other, and that would be us. Jacob is stronger, all right? And you have all types of accounts of the men of the Lord doing all these miraculous things and feats, okay, in which, through brute strength at a time, and then others just based on faith, okay, which was yesterday our message about superpower. And you got a lot of naysayers out there who don't believe what the scriptures say, number one. And you got a lot of scoffers. Oh, you niggas ain't gonna have no superpower. Yeah, well, it's a matter of faith for us. Okay, all right. Anyway, let's go over here to where I want to go. Let's go over here to John 14, and we're jumping right here at verse 7, and it reads, if ye had known me, ye should have known my Father also, and from henceforth ye know him and have seen him. Philip said unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Yahushua said unto him, have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that has seen me has seen the Father, and how sayest thou then, show us the Father? Right? Because again, it's about faith, all right, of the things that we read, in the Holy Scriptures. Okay? Verse 10, believest thou not that I am in Salakia? Believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very work's sake, right? So even Yahushua showed spiritual power, right? Because what? He healed the lame, he healed the sick, he gave sight to the blind, he did all types of miracles, okay? That's spiritual power. Going on to verse 12, it says, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, right, that's a byproduct, if you will, or it is the manifestation of faith, right? When you believe on Yahushua, right, the things that happen afterward, through your faith, it's because of that belief becomes a manifestation, right, or vice versa, okay, of your faith. Anyway, it says, the works that I do shall he do also. Who? Those that believe in him. And greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto the Father, right? And so those that are believers, those that have the faith, you're going to perform some things, right, that you knew not that you had the power to do so, other than through your faith, right? And why? Because he just said so. Okay, he said that those that believe in me, all right, will do greater works. All right, and so we saw him give sight to the blind. We read about him giving sight to the blind. Okay, we read about him healing the lame, creating food from 3 fish, 5 loaves, so on and so forth, turning water into wine, all these different types of things, raising the dead, and so on. Okay? So superpower is coming, to be mighty men, all right? As a matter of fact, let's go down here and we'll read about King David and his men. We'll read just a little bit about it. Okay, we'll read a couple of verses down like here. So this is an example, right? You can always go back into the scriptures and find examples of what? The men, the prophets of the Lord who had that unique ability to do things that what they call extraordinary or extraordinary. You see? First Chronicles 11:10, it says, these also are the chief of the mighty men whom David had, who strengthened themselves with him in his kingdom and with all Israel to make him king, according to the word of the Lord Yahweh concerning Israel. And this is the number of the mighty men whom David had: Jashobeam and Hachmonite, and chief of the captains. He lifted up his spear against 300 slain by him at one time. You see, that's mighty men, and looking at that young man go through that course and the way he just blasted through it, obviously he was trained for it, but look at the speed, look at the stamina, look at the tactical movement, you see. And verse 12, it says, and after him was Eleazar the son of Dodo, and Ahohite, who was one of the 3 mightiest, verse 13, he was with David at Pasdamimim, and there the Philistines were gathered together to battle. Were Salakia, where was a parcel of ground full of barley, and the people fled from before the Philistines, and they set themselves in the midst of that parcel and delivered it and slew the Philistines, and the Lord saved them by a great deliverance. Right. So those mighty men, what? They had the Lord on their side. You see? That's that might, that strength. Okay? That unforeseen thing. You see, because Jake today says, prove it. You know what I mean? They have to see something with their eyes, feel something, okay? They go by their carnal senses. They don't have the faith to understand the unseen realm, right, of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay, verse 15 now. 3 of the 30 captives went down to the rock to David into the cave of Adullam, and the host of the Philistines encamped in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the hole, and the Philistines' garrison was then at Bethlehem. And David longed and said, "Oh, that one would give me drink of the water in the well of Bethlehem, that is at the gate." And the 3 brake through the host of the Philistines and drew water out of the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. But David would not drink of it, but poured it out to the Lord Yahweh, and said, "My power forbid it me that I should do this thing. Shall I drink the blood of these men that have put their lives in jeopardy? For with the jeopardy of their lives they brought it. Therefore he would not drink it. These things did these 3 mightiest." You see? So he had mighty men to break through against, a guarded place, and got the water and brought it back to him. Okay, and the point was made in our camp yesterday. See, everything is in the scriptures. So when you see these Negroes out here pouring out the first sip of wine on the ground, saying for the brothers who ain't here, they call it libations. But here you see it in the scriptures first. You see? Anyway, that was a point that was made yesterday while we were at camp, right? So there's just another side note, okay? Let's see here. Verse 20, and Abishai, the brother of Joab, he was chief of the 3, for lifting up his spear against 300, he slew them and had a name among the 3. Of the 3, he was more honorable than the 2, for he was their captain, howbeit he attained not to be the first 3. Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. Also he went down and slew a lion in a pit in a snowy day. And he slew an Egyptian, a man of great stature, 5 cubits high. And in the Egyptian's hand, which I'm not real good with the cubits, but that would be something like, 8 or 9 feet tall. Okay? And because I think a cubit is like 18 inches, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I don't hold me to it. It just means that he was really tall. Let's say it that way. All right, 5 cubits high, and in the Egyptian's hand was a spear like a weaver's beam, and he went down to him with a staff and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand and slew him with his own spear. These things did Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and had the name among the 3 mightiest. Behold, he was honorable among the 30, but attended not to be the first 3, and David set him over his guard. Right. So you can read the rest of that. Salakia for butchering some of that. But you can read the rest of it, and it goes into the mighty men that King David had. Great feats, great strength, great stamina, great skill. Okay. because we're those people. We're that peculiar people of the Lord. Okay? In fact, we got it here in 3 different places in the scriptures. I pulled it up this way so that you could see where it was mentioned, you know, because you got Jake out there who's an asshole, okay, from time to time and say, oh, that was in the Old Testament. Well, it's in the New Testament too. Let's read all 3 of them. Deuteronomy 14:2. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a what? Peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. That's above all of them. Every last one of them. You see it? So as that peculiar people walking before the Lord, right, when we're in our right mind, let's just say that, okay, we're the chosen people of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? You got all the prophets. You had Samuel. You had Samuel plus Samson. Okay, all these great men, all these great prophets, great warriors, and mighty men that came out of Israel. You see. Now you go to the New Testament. Okay, Titus, who gave himself for us, verse 14, 2 and 14, who gave himself for us that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify unto himself a peculiar people, right? Zealous of good works. So we are a different people altogether in all aspects, from the spiritual aspect to our strength, right, in the Lord, to our abilities to do certain physical things, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, when this whole thing comes crashing down, right, and when it's time for us to be changed, man, we're going to have spiritual power. Okay? 1 Peter 2:9, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into the marvelous light, right? So we are a different people, right? One people shall be stronger than the other, okay? Let's see here. We can drop that. Let's go to Matthew 5:13. It says, ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt had lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Right? But to the contrary, right? Verse 14, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that ye may see, Salaki, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. All right? So we're a special kind of people, and when we do things in the right manner, you know, our Father gets the glory, all right? Because all these other nations like, wow, look at these people, man, look at this guy here. Just like you take Tiger Woods in golf, you know. Now I'm giving these examples just to show, you know, because they all flawed men, okay. Michael Jordan in basketball, you know, Walter Payton in football, you know, these are people, men who showed or displayed that they were mighty men at their sport, okay, and people just marvel at what their abilities allowed them to do, you know, while they were on the court or on the field. All right, you look at what was the other guy's name? Usain Bolt. You know, I think he still might hold the record, Olympic record for 200 meters, I believe. But you look at these types of guys, you know, and even to the women, when you're looking into women's sports and track and field and so on, look at all these Jakes breaking all these records, you know, okay? So we're special people. let's go over to Mark, and I think I read this yesterday, but we'll read it again. Mark 16:14 says, afterward he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen, right? Because again, we're going to exercise our faith, okay? And he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned, right? And this is of the Israelites, all right? The every creature is of the Israelites who are scattered across the four corners of the earth, right? But in their day and time, what they had as the known world, right? And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. You see, so that spiritual power on a certain level, will follow the men who are truly believers and have faith in him. Okay. Going about doing the work of the Lord, but to those that don't understand or don't have faith, they'll be astonished at what the men are capable of. And we said it yesterday, that on a certain level, yeah, we have spiritual power now. Okay, all right, through faith. Faith is a spiritual power. Okay, and there are brothers who do have the understanding, the wisdom, to be able to heal, in certain instances, okay, through faith, all right? And that's the key element. That's the straw that stirs the drink, faith, right? Hebrews 11:1, it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, right? Like I said earlier, you got a lot of jakes who say, prove it. Well, we don't have to prove shit to you. Because you're already doubting and lack faith. You're in unbelief. We have nothing to prove to you. All right? But at some point, yeah, you're gonna believe what we say, because when we say it, and we can take this recent situation in the news with the Grim Reaper, Fauci, okay, and the jabby jab, right, that we told you then not to take it, right? That in of itself, to be able to be, brothers are seers, prophets, okay, to tell you what's getting ready to happen before it happens. That's superpower, okay? It's not always breaking through a brick wall that's a superpower, of being able to fly. We'll get that, all right, when the time comes, but we're exhibiting superpower now, okay? It's just that you don't believe it is, for all you unbelievers and scoffers out there, okay? Verse 2, for by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of the Most High, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear, right? So you got to understand through faith all the things that are hoped for and promised through the scriptures, and believe it, and believe on Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? Okay, that's an act of faith, to believe in the things that you don't see. Okay, all right. So anyway, we'll end the lesson right here. Like I said, I saw that clip and I just laughed, because it was. It reminded me of what we were talking about yesterday at camp, and that young man was showing you that he has some kind of superpower, all right? Jake was really getting it in on that obstacle course, you see? And that people being us, is stronger than the other. And when we have gifts and traits like that, hey, it's on display for the whole world to see, right? So let your light so shine before men, right? That they marvel at our great power, right? That we get from Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And there's more to come, right? And trust and believe that when we are changed and get those new bodies, Yeah, you're going to see some things that, you know, that you only saw in the movies. You see? So anyway, brothers and sisters, out in the lesson right here, you know, that gives us, it gives us hope, you know, in the Lord, right? That soon, as that old song says, change is going to come. All right. So with that, I end the lesson right there, giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Shalom.